So Harry, thanks for that information. But a lot of people when they hear this, they might, if they send back all these offers of contract, they might get worried that somebody's going to call to their door one day and be less than a civil servant. So what would you say to that?
Well, if people, and you see, we predicted this really a couple of years ago, and people said, no way, that's not going to happen. What we're witnessing today is no different than what happened in the 1800s. People are being evicted from their homes and they are going to bed hungry, and there is mass emigration. So we're back into penal times. Nothing has changed. This is why they send you penal notices. They're called penalty notices. They're the same thing. It's the same thing. So nothing has changed. So these penalty notices means you're back in the penal times. So if people get a visitation from these unconstitutional, unlawful, so-called self-appointed officers, in actual fact, what people need to know is that the Minister for so-called Justice, presently Alan Shatter, issues the warrant to the sheriff which enables him to function in this country. So everything needs to be addressed to the likes of Alan Shatter. People need to demand a copy of the warrant or the licence that was issued to the sheriff from Shatter and his predecessors, which apparently enabled the sovereign Irish people to be evicted from their homes for foreign gain. Because all these properties are being taken over and nobody knows where these monies are going. They call this the Exchequer figures. Is this the Chancellor of the Exchequer? People need to wake up. People need to start asking questions and demanding answers. And stop fluoridating the water, because you also put aluminium sulfate in the water to make sure you forget. It's all designed, folks. If you get a visitation from these people, you don't have to answer your door. If you do answer your door, you can simply lock it and walk down the street. You do not have to dialogue with these people because they have no authority over you. You give it to them if you sign their pieces of paper, as was explained. You don't have to dialogue with them. You haven't broken the law. It's very, very simple. Your life is none of their business. That's simple. Your life is none of their business, only if you make it their business. Only if you wish to dialogue with them, you give them subject matter jurisdiction. You don't have to speak to these people. You simply walk away. And the unfortunate thing, what has happened in the past year or two, is that our guardians of the peace are on Garda Síochána, and that's their sworn oath of office as guardians of the peace. They have been used and abused by this Oireachtas, this royal Oireachtas. They have transformed our national peacekeepers on Garda Síochána. They have transformed them into policy officers, which is a police officer, a policy of a registered corporation to collect taxes from the people, assist in the eviction from their home by a foreign entity known as the sheriff and his deputies. And the guards have been used in this way. And I compliment the guards for work to rule basis, because they also have mortgages to pay, as well as the nurses and the firemen. They're finding it difficult to try and pay a mortgage, and they have the lawful right to operate according to their oath of office as peacekeepers and nothing more. You don't have to do these things. You can disobey what you deem an unlawful order, and you can take the issue up later stage. You have that right to do it. So I do want to compliment the guards on that. And I want to ask the people to stand behind on Garda Síochána, and on Garda Síochána to stand by the people. Because the first Garda Commissioner, Michael Staines, in 1922, his statement was, "On Garda Síochána will succeed not by force of arms or by numbers, but by the moral authority as servants of the people." People need to know this. The guards need to, also they need to know this too, because what's been airbrushed out of our history is our history. What's been taken away, our Independence Day is being aired. Nobody knows our Independence Day. Nobody knows, only in recently people are aware of the fact that there's a thing called the Constitution. Nobody is aware, or few people are aware, that the sheriff doesn't have any authority in this country whatsoever, only when you contract with them. And people need to simply wake up. You need to get a filtration system on your water supply and send the council the bill, because they ain't going to take it out of the water. I've done fluoride campaigns, aluminium sulfate campaigns in water, and they're drinking tap water. They ain't going to take it out. You need to take the responsibility and install a filtration system and send them the bill. Reverse the headache. This is how you reverse the headache. That's just one way of doing it. But if you get all these offers of contracts from the departments of the Royal Oireachtas, you simply return them to sender, and that includes eFlow. It also includes the solicitors acting on behalf of eFlow. You return them to sender. There's nothing complicated about this. You don't have to even write any letters. But just to explain this some time ago, what we did was we wrote a letter, put it up on the internet, it's on With the People, had to cancel an eFlow notice. You'll also find it on YouTube. And we'll show you why it works. When you read these handwritten letter, there's an example of a handwritten letter there. When you read that, you will understand, comprehend why this stuff works. It ain't what you do, it's the way that you do it. If people want to change the government, for example, in Ireland, people believe that if they vote for another political party it's going to change things. That's clearly not the case, and that a piece of graphite on a page is lawful, valid and bona fide. That's not lawful, valid and bona fide. When you write a handwritten blue ink letter in blue ink, sacking the government and registering that letter to them, if enough people do this, statistically it's more powerful than any referendum, because one registered letter constitutes statistically 13,000 people thinking the same thing but doing nothing about it. So if every man or woman in Ireland, from every county in Ireland, take the whole counties in, the 33 actually, Fingal is another county in Ireland, so we actually have 33 counties. A handful of people, 10, 20 people from each county in this country can vacate the Royal Oireachtas lawfully. Handwritten blue ink letters, and register those letters and put them up on the internet, and lawfully that government is now vacated. And the people, we the people, don't need another political party to manage this country, and I think people have learned that by now the hard way. The people can run this country. We can reinstate a sovereign government. It still exists. It sits every year on our Independence Day on the 21st of January. Once that's claimed every year, we have never lost our sovereignty. Once you claim it every year, you retain it de jure. You retain lawful sovereignty when you claim it every year. And that's the case. That's the situation. We haven't lost our sovereignty. What's been happening in this country is that the country has been taken over by a coup d'etat, a silent coup d'etat, via the banking system, and all our natural resources, which was worth trillions, it's still worth trillions, not just a couple of 100 billion, but trillions and trillions of any currency in the planet. We claim that every year the largest land mass in Europe and sea mass rather of oil and gas every year for the people. It's worth trillions. But that was fraudulently signed away in 1974 for oil and gas, approximately 3 to 4% of the world's supply. Fraudulent contracts, likewise fraudulent licenses, fraudulent warrants issued to entities like the sheriff evicting the people from their home. Banks also, none of them have license to operate. If you need to change things, you need to demand a copy of the license of the bank, or any bank. They should have a license displayed on the wall in the bank. A bit like a post office or a business, the banks must have a license displayed. It's the same for the councils. They need a license to take money, to receive money from the people. They don't have a license. If you want to nullify all these things, you demand a license. They don't have one. And then you report them to the guards for fraud.